So you were making real money before you hit into show business.
I think I make more money outside of show business than show business.
Wow. Hey guys, I'm Bill Rancic, and my new podcast, Dollar Bill, will help you build a brighter financial future for yourself and for your family. Let's get to work. Howie.
Bill.
Good to see you again.
I know. I know. Isn't that crazy?
Amazing.
How good is it to see me?
I love it. I love it. And my son loves it too. My 11-year-old son, Duke, sends his love. He's freaking out right now. Huge fan of your work on America's Got Talent.
That's so sweet. That's the beauty of America's Got Talent. It really hits a lot of boxes. I have been a fractured persona my entire career in show business, over 45 years now. The people that knew me as a comedian didn't know me as an actor. People who knew me as an actor when I was on St. Elsewhere didn't know me as a Saturday morning cartoon. You know, and like Deal or No Deal kind of brought them all together. Yeah. But even though they are brought together, I think people still don't know that I still do stand-up, which is my first love.
Yeah, well, I know you as an entrepreneur because you and I almost went into business together.
We did.
Like 10 years ago.
I wanted to.
And you're our landlord here at Dollar Bill. So this is your studio, you own it. And you started out when you were doing stand-up, you were smart because you started squirreling your money away in Canada, Toronto.
Called squirreling?
Oh, well, that's what we say in Chicago.
Is that what you say?
Yeah, you squirreled your money away.
Here's my.
But you bought real estate.
I did. Oh, well, even before real estate, I've always, and I've said this to many people, but my entrepreneurial interest outweighs my show business or my creative interest. Always has. And I'm also fascinated with the fact that that we don't teach it, that we don't, my kids, and I hope you're doing the same with your son, my kids have learned it. I don't think that from watching me and talking to me, but I believe that once we have our 4th grade education, we're good to go.
We're good to go.
We're really good to go as far as the economy goes, because you just have to know how to add, subtract, divide.
Well, we don't like divide because that means you're losing money.
But you may be amortizing something.
True, okay.
There's a different way. I was looking at the glass half full.
Okay,
you were taking it away. But in the sense that, you know, there was never any context in education.
Yeah.
You know, when you did learn to add 5 and 5, and you knew there was something called 10, what does that mean?
Yeah.
You know? But when you put it into the context of when you're a little kid, it cost 5 cents to get a lemon and squeeze it and put some water in, and then somebody's going to give you 10 cents for that. So now your 1 nickel is worth 2 nickels, and if you could drive that home, then that's what sticks with you. I didn't grow up with money.
Nor did I.
I wanted things, and I realized that was the only way to get things.
What did your parents do for a living?
They ended up hitting it when I was already grown and out. My mom was in real estate and sold condos and did great, was the #1 salesperson in Canada for condos, but that was already in the 80s.
Got it.
I'm going to be 70 next year, so I was already grown. Yeah, well, find my hairline.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable.
And my dad sold, he was an entrepreneur. He always was
Hustling.
Whether
Is that where you got it
stock.
from then?
Yeah. The excitement of, I also love the game Monopoly. I love the game. You know, to be totally honest with you now, I don't do anything that I don't want to do, but dollars are like points. And I like to score as many points as possible. And I like to score points passively. There's nothing more enjoyable and satisfying. It's like walking away from the pinball machine, but you hear ding, 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 ding. You know when it used to get caught on that rubber thing and it's going and it's racking up the points and you don't have to do anything. You can kind of sit back. That's how I think of dollars. And, you know, I would imagine you feel that right now. Right now you're sitting here and talking to me, but somebody is paying a check at a restaurant.
Someone is at RPM eating right now.
Right.
Yeah, or buying Juliana Prosecco or...
Right. And by
leasing one of your apartments or your studio spaces. Yeah.
But, and I'm not, and I don't have to show up and act silly. The truth of the matter was that when I made a decision to be in show business at the beginning, Didn't make any sense to me. It didn't make any sense that somebody would pay me, even at the time, to show up on Merv Griffin, on the Merv Griffin show or a talk show or any appearance that I made. They pay something called scale, as you know. And they would give you, at that time, maybe $250. I think now it's upwards of $700. But you show up on a talk show and you sit there and you talk to somebody like this. Not like this because you're not paying me. But
well, I kind of am.
Are you?
We're paying rent.
Oh, you're right.
So,
Ka-ching. Oh my God.
You're getting paid for
so
this.
I'm going to talk slower.
That's right.
So you stay longer. Anyway, the point is that I would show up and they'd pay you $300 to sit and talk to Merv Griffin for 5 minutes. And I'd go, oh my God, that's $300. And I left, I was engaged to be married to the girl I'm still married to. I was engaged to be married, and I said, you know what, I'm going to give this a shot. I'm going to go to California and give this a shot. And when people paid this, I remember the first time I accumulated like $5,000 from show business, from just showing up. I was getting like $25 a show to show up at the Comedy Store, or $35, we would all split the door. And I put together, I had $5,600. I always compartmentalized like where money came from.
Yeah.
So my show business money was at $5,600. And at the time, this is the 70s. And so I went and bought a 10-year term deposit, like $5,000 term deposit, and left $600 in the bank. And I remember my wife saying, well, like, what are you doing? You're going to tie this up for... I go, but I'm guaranteed the value of this is always $5,000. And it's throwing off 12% every year.
Right, in the
so
70s.
here's my passive. I'm guaranteed that I'm going to make $700 profit on this, and I've moved this $5,000 away, so I can't spend it.
Yep.
So it's just now I got $600, and I'm hungry, and I don't know that I can survive on $600, but I'm going to go do more jobs for $25, and then that was always the.
Yeah.
And then I read this book. Have you read Rich Dad Poor Dad?
Yeah. Robert Kiyosaki.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love his philosophy. I don't know if that's such a well-written book, but it makes so much sense. And the sense is, when you make $1, and I love this, and it's like landing on a property in Monopoly. When you make $1, think of that dollar as your employee. They say it takes money to make money.
That's right.
So what can I do with that dollar to make another dollar? And if you think of it that way, you don't have to be, I didn't go to college, I didn't go to university, but it's really easy. As he says in the book, at least my generation, maybe yours. How old are you?
50. I'm going to be 53 next week.
You look great.
Thanks.
You look great.
Yeah.
So, but your generation was, you go to college, you get a degree, and with that degree, you are given a job. Somebody else will give you a job. That's the normal path.
That's right.
And first of all, I'm not a big proponent of college unless you learn a specific skill.
Especially now.
Right.
I think college has changed so much.
You can't afford to be a doctor.
But you can learn everything you need online.
Well, not to be a doctor.
Other than that, right.
Or an engineer, or maybe even an engineer.
Even an engineer you probably can, but for 90% of the professions out there, you can learn online.
Or by doing it.
Or by doing it.
And making mistakes. Right. So, but my point is that, so you would go and graduate college with a master's or a BA or whatever like in my era, a really good job years and years ago was $100,000 or $150,000.
Yeah.
It still is,
Yeah.
I think in middle America.
Yeah.
For somebody to graduate college and then to begin. The average person that comes out of college and starts making $100,000 a year will look for a home. And they'll probably buy a home in middle America, maybe, I don't know, I'm just throwing out ridiculous numbers, but $300,000. So what are you doing? You're buying a mortgage. Now you're buying a debt. You make $100,000, you're buying something for the value of 3 times more than you're making. So, whatever, if you put down 20%, you're buying a $280,000 mortgage.
Yeah, 240, yeah.
Why?
Right.
Why would you do that? So if you're making money, first of all, we live in this fantasy, and I think that our online presence, this is online, so I'm not knocking it. Watch it and be part of it, and hopefully this becomes part of your algorithm. But it teases you about what you don't have, so you want more. But if you're going to buy a house, if you could look outside of your comfort zone and get a duplex
Right.
and make sure that you're going to live in a place, it's not your dream home.
Right.
This is not your forever home, but where you can get somebody else whose rent is going to cover your mortgage.
Yeah.
And at the same time as you're living passively, this is accruing more and more value just because as time goes on, real estate value will...
You can depreciate the asset against your income. I mean, there's so many benefits to it.
There's all those benefits, and you don't have to be a college professor to know that.
That's right.
And the point is, you should never, in my opinion, sell anything unless you have to. As that becomes more and more valuable, maybe you can borrow against it and buy another duplex that you can live in and buy another one. Then you become my age and you start owning things that are throwing off money and you can relax. Eventually, you can, if you like that shiny new place, you can have it. But you should have it when it doesn't cost you. You should have it when it doesn't hurt you.
But who taught you this? Like, and what are you teaching your kids? Like
that.
You're teaching, but how did you learn this? Because most people at home, they don't have parents who are successful,
My
wealthy.
parents weren't successful.
Right.
My parents were successful.
Eventually.
They didn't teach me it.
Right.
But they did teach me the value of a dollar. They did teach me about not overspending, overindulging. They did teach me, I was 12 years old when I had my first paper route, and I had 200 papers, and I worked in Toronto, Canada, and I had I was in a building, and I knew that collecting was hell. But whatever, that $16 at the end of the week as a 12-year-old or a 13-year-old, I knew that I didn't have to ask my mom or my dad to go buy me my baseball cards. I could buy, if I wanted to collect baseball cards, I bought my baseball cards. I knew when I was 16 years old, if I wanted to have a car, I got my driver's license. My parents couldn't afford to buy me a car. So if I wanted to work and get that money and save it at the time, just even save it, forget about investing it, I knew that it had to come from me. So even today, where I think on paper, most people would say I do incredibly well.
Yeah.
It means a lot to me. $20, it's still $20. $20 is still $20. It didn't lose that. I find that, like, if I go into someplace and I'm shopping and I feel like, are you overcharging me? And then they look at you and say, well, you can afford it.
Yeah, you're Howie Mandel. Yeah.
I say, like, I don't want to be. Money is money, and I worked hard, and I worked at minimum wage. I worked for $1.35 an hour. I still know what that is. Yeah. And if I show up and I work for an hour, I want my $1.35. I still want that.
Worst job you've ever had?
The worst job I ever had was I worked for a chain, a very successful drugstore chain in Canada, and I was a stock boy, and I worked in the basement breaking all the boxes. And they made me, because everybody at the time had to wear a tie, they made me wear a tie, and I was in the basement breaking boxes, and it was like over the summer, and it was crazy hot and just sweating, and I was just in the garbage of cardboard and boxes and carrying, and I'm not in high school, I was 4'10" in high school, 4'10" and 89 pounds.
Wow.
So carrying stuff was not...
Were you malnourished? Were your parents not feeding you?
Oh, I grew really late. I'll give you a picture, but I was just little. I looked like a little girl. My voice didn't change. I wanted to meet girls. This is the worst thing I did. It wasn't even my job. I wanted to be on a team. I thought that I could meet a girl if I'm on a team because they would like an athlete. Yeah. And I'm 89 pounds, so what team could I join?
Bowling?
No, we didn't have you had a bowling team? That's Chicago, maybe.
Yeah, we had bowling teams.
I never had a bowling team. Yeah. I didn't like bowling. I didn't want to stick my fingers in holes.
Yeah,
I
get that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a little bit.
But anyway, but worse, I was a wrestler. Under 90.
Wow.
Weight class. Onesie.
Yeah.
Long hair. I looked like a little girl in a one piece with knee pads. Rolling around, hugging another little guy.
I wrestled 114. My freshman and sophomore year of high school.
Really?
Yeah.
So what are you making fun of me? Weren't that much bigger?
Chops. I grew in college too. I was in college when I grew. But yeah.
I started dating my wife has seen me grow. When I kissed her goodnight on the first date, I had to stand on a curb. I did. Why are you laughing? You have a producer on the side that's laughing. This was not a funny moment for me.
This is his last day.
This was my, it wasn't exciting. You know, you want to kiss somebody
No,
goodnight,
of
you want to
course
just
not.
lean in. I
Yeah.
saw movies, you want to lean in.
It's hard to be a
You
teenager.
don't want to have to climb.
Yeah, no.
You shouldn't have to climb.
Never climbing, never allowed.
I did.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
you know what? I made it.
Yeah.
She's still my wife. She's the love of my life. She's the person that that
How many years you been married?
44 married,
Congrats.
50 together.
Amazing.
Yeah. For her, to the fact that
And
she's
in Hollywood
able to
years.
No, I don't feel like Hollywood is any different.
Oh, come on.
Well, you tell me. You're in the restaurant business. I
Yeah.
think that our business, and your wife was part of this, on E and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It makes for great entertainment. Like who's doing who's breaking
Yeah.
up, and who's
Well, there's a really high divorce rate here,
and there isn't in the restaurant business. You don't
I
think
think
that
it's
some
higher
waitresses are getting tips?
I'm just saying. I think in when you look at the population as a whole, right? In Hollywood, it's higher than the average.
Is that true?
Yeah.
I don't think anybody's ever actually figured that out.
Give me 30 seconds. We'll get the answer. All
Okay.
right? So, your parents, dad's an entrepreneur, mom's in real estate. What is one nugget of advice that they gave you that you're going to pass on to your kids? Like for me, when I was growing up, my parents always said it's okay to fail, it's okay to make mistakes, but it's never okay not to try. And that was the best advice they could have given me because I wasn't afraid to fail.
That's not how my parents said it, but that's exactly so mine was just say okay. Just say yes.
Yes.
And I say yes, and I never say no. I very rarely say no unless it's impossible for me to do whatever it is.
Yeah.
And part of it is I was not diagnosed as a child, but I've been diagnosed. I have ADHD.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest issue as far as not being able to say no because I'm very impulsive.
Mm-hmm.
I go, okay. And I have other issues. But what I've learned in my philosophy is it's easy to say no.
Yeah.
But no is spelled N-O.
Uh-huh.
And N-O are the first two letters in nothing. So nothing comes from no.
Yeah.
Yes, it gives you, if anything, an experience.
Yeah.
And even if it's a learning experience of not to take that path again, it is something. And I think the biggest problem people have in business and in life is thinking.
Yeah.
And Nike says it best of just do it. But more importantly, instinctually, all of us go through life, a lot of us go through life and we go on business and they go, I shoulda, coulda, woulda, when you see it after.
Major regret.
Always.
Yeah.
Instead of, if you just did it, if you just let it happen, then it's going to, something will come of it.
Yeah.
Something will come of it. I think there's a million reasons to not move forward.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you think about it, me, for example, I was already in my 20s. I'm going to move. I'm engaged to be married. I'm doing okay in retail. Should I move to California where I know no one, I have nobody in the business, and try to make a living and pay the rent and support a wife and family by doing stand-up comedy on paper?
Yeah.
There's a million reasons why I shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
But I didn't think about that. And if you look at anything that has become a success, there's a million reasons. Columbus shouldn't have sailed to America because you could have fallen off the edge,
That's
right? Like you're not going to go anywhere. You're just going on. Not only did he do it, he got a whole boatload, 3 boatloads of people to follow him. So the people that lead and the people that succeed are the people that go for it kind of with that devil may care attitude. And that's the key. If you look at anybody that's successful, like crazy success, I was even talking to you before this. I mean, in my mind, Chicago is the restaurant hub of the nation.
Yeah.
The best steak, the best Italian food, the best Chicago pizza, everything is the best.
Yeah.
So why should a young guy from Chicago grow up and think, well, I'm going to do it better? That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Why is it not ridiculous? Because you did it. I always talk about Elon Musk or Steve Jobs. Think about what they're up against. Steve Jobs wants to create a new computer. Well, there's already IBM.
Yeah.
It's done, buddy.
Right.
What are you going to do? He became...
It's a fine line between crazy and genius.
I
And
think
those
it's
are two guys that are excellent examples.
Is
of
it
that.
genius, or is it the ability to kind of put blinders on and not have the, I don't think there's anybody out there right now that at some point has an idea. Most people do not pursue any
Well, they don't want
idea.
to work for it, Howie. No one, I mean, it takes
No, they want
effort.
somebody else to give.
Yeah,
They want somebody else to give it to them.
When that's the world we live in. Look at Instagram, and I love Instagram, but like, it's screwing up our kids because everything's got to be perfect. My buddy owns a couple of private planes. He's renting out these planes for $5,000 an hour. He pulls them out of the hangar. Instagrammers come in, and they're filming. They're paying him $5,000, no fuel. They're living this lie. They're renting the plane, never gets off the ground. It literally gets pulled out of the hangar, and that's it. And then he wheels it back in.
But if you look, and I'm not getting like political with you,
Yeah.
but if you look at what people don't like about whatever side they don't like,
Yeah,
it's look what they're not doing for me.
that's right.
Look what this other side will do so much better. My life will be better when they do this.
That's right.
The truth is that they're taking the responsibility away from themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that this is maybe crazy, but absolutely everybody could possibly, and it's up to you, to be self-sufficient, and they look at things, part of what you're talking about is they look at Instagram, they look at this kid, he's on a private jet, he's not really, but you know why I can't do it? Because in my town, I have to pay these taxes and I can't do that. But it's always them.
That's what they're doing.
Yes.
They're pointing to the right and their left, and when you want to make it, you got to do this.
Then you're Steve Jobs in a garage with your goofy friend for 2 years.
That's right.
Or you think about what Elon Musk did and PayPal. I come from retail. I was just telling somebody that I come from retail, and I realized I never thought of this, but I realized that if I wanted, and it's the same thing with your business, if somebody's going to come on into your restaurant and pay on Visa, as opposed to pay cash. If they pay cash, they give you $100.
We don't take cash anymore, but
But I'm just saying, in theory, if they pay Visa, there's a VIG off the top from the bank.
Right.
The point being that when I started in retail, it was like 5% and 6% that the bank was taking off. Now it's 1.5 because what happened, a la PayPal kind of ideas, there is a point of purchase program that somebody wrote for restaurants. And they have one central bank, and they said, all right, if I bring you $10 million a month in restaurant business to a bank, will you do that for a point? And they say yes, because you're bringing me $10 million.
Right.
They write that program, which you install in all your restaurants, and they charge you 1.5. Now they're making 0.5 point off of every penny that is spent in every restaurant in the nation. That's an easy solve, an easy business, and that's exactly what Elon Musk did.
Right.
That's what PayPal is.
And that's what Jeff Bezos, it's using empathy in business. You're finding people's pain points, right? Seeing the world from their perspective rather than yours, and you're coming up with profitable solutions for them.
The only difference between anybody that came up with that, I just didn't. That's not where my interest is.
Right.
But my interest, my personal interest, and is just, I'm playing a little bit of Monopoly. I'm playing a little bit I'm having fun acting like a goofball doing stand-up comedy, which
very good at it.
But it expands I stay on camera now because it gives me a little bit of leverage when I walk into a room to do whatever, to make a deal even outside of that business or to buy this building,
When did you buy your first building?
I bought my first building in the 80s.
Okay.
What was happening, I didn't buy, my first thing was, I was playing Las Vegas. And I was playing Caesar's Palace. I used to be Diana Ross's opening act. And Caesar's Palace then took a dive in the early 80s. And then Steve Wynn built the Mirage. And then tried to sell Vegas. It used to be like the Sammy Davis, Frank Sinatra, the Rat Pack. It was a place where you went and it was adult. It was Sin City. It's where you went and you wore a tuxedo. And then Steve Wynn decided that market was going away. It should be family It should be all. So he built the first one was the Mirage, which had these great pools and Siegfried and Roy, and it was a lazy river, and you can go see the tigers during the day. So you had things, and they were building. They had Circus built up, which was like family fun. They were making, which was never Vegas,
Right.
But because of that, the real estate market in Vegas ended up booming.
Wow.
And Nevada became, I think in the early 80s, you could check out this information, in the early 80s became the biggest growing state in America, Nevada, in Vegas. People like KB Homes were buying swaths for
miles of land.
Miles and miles of desert.
Yeah.
Way out in like Summerlin and that, and putting tracks down of 2,000 homes they were building. And then I saw that there was like lotteries for these houses, like people were lining up and they couldn't they'd get 5 people. Another house, we missed out, we got houses.
Wow.
So the first thing I did was me and my partner, we bought dirt around the airport. And I bought, and we started building these tilt-ups, these little boxes like you're in right now, warehouses around the airport, and they were called commercial condos. And what it was we knew that every trade that was moving to Vegas, all these plumbers and tile makers and electricians were moving to Vegas. So, and they needed warehouse space to put all their tile and their pipes and their whatever. So instead of renting, we had a friend that owned warehouses there that I knew, and he was renting all this space. So we bought these things and we said, we're gonna sell you commercial condos. So you'll have a warehouse and an office, but instead of paying rent, you'll pay your mortgage. You own it. The mortgage is more of a it's a better write-off. It's more of a mortgage.
Yeah.
I couldn't build those fast enough.
Wow.
The next thing I did.
You wish you wouldn't have sold them and kept them?
Yes.
Yeah.
I wish I didn't sell anything.
You violated your own rule.
I know.
Yeah.
But that's how I came up with the rules.
Yeah.
I made mistakes.
Yeah, exactly.
So then I went out to where there was like 2,000 homes, and I waited till those things almost came to fruition, and then I would buy 2 acres of dirt leading into the community.
Yeah.
Because I'd say, I don't see any infrastructure here. So then I would build like a mini mall. It would be a car wash, like an AM/PM.
Wow. I mean, that's pretty gutsy. Where did you get the money to do that?
I get investors.
Wow.
I had a business manager. I go, this is great. I got this. There's 2,000 homes here.
It's unbelievable.
They're not going to drive to the strip to go fill up with gas.
Right.
All these houses are sold. So I just know as a human being, if I'm going to leave my house and I need some gas, I'm going to go get gas.
Right.
What I didn't realize was my partner, so I built these gas stations. And then I ended up building like 8 of them in the thing. The big thing was the gas station. So I built 8 gas stations around Vegas. And then what was happening was this other business, so you got to be open to it. So this other business, electronic poker machine, and the post office. You know how when you go into an AM/PM, I'm calling them AM/PM. What do you call this store? It wasn't AM/PM, and I don't know. Like a quick gas station, you can go in and
AM/PM. I know we had those where I grew up.
Okay.
AM/PMs,
yeah. So they would want to put an electronic poker machine in the gas station. So while you're waiting for gas or whatever you're doing, you can play poker, not people on the strip. People who live there, you can throw a couple of bucks in and play a game. Or the post office would have a stamp machine there. That real estate, which was the base, was the same as this table. You know what they pay me for the poker machine?
Piece of the action every month?
No. I wish I had a piece of that. I didn't know this. They go, can we put a machine in your place? I go, well, how much are you going to give me? They would give me $35,000 to $50,000 a month in a gas station to have this box.
How old are you at this point?
I was almost 30.
That's unbelievable.
But I'm saying it wasn't about gas anymore.
Right.
It was about how do I, so that they knew we had traffic. People were coming in to buy, gas was the last thing on the run.
Was the lowest margin.
It was cigarettes, beer,
soda,
and gambling.
Wow.
And these are all the people that live in the, so then my partner who I ended up going out of business with.
$35,000 a month, this is 25 years ago.
Yeah. It was crazy. And I had 8 stores and I would say, well, you know what, let's not have cookies anymore. Let's take out the end cap of the cookies and let's just have another poker machine.
Unbelievable.
And my partner ended up getting his gambling license, and now he has 600 of his own machines and opened his own casino, and we were really good friends from that. I found that business.
That's incredible.
I found that business originally. This is another thing. My buddy said, because Nevada was the biggest growing population of construction and building.
Yeah.
He said, Howie, he found out, I guess he found this online. He said that electricians, trades, will buy used things. I know nothing about this. So I put up all the cash. I said, I'll put up the cash because you know the things. We would look up all over America wherever they were imploding a building, a hotel,
things are going bust,
things that are construction that was being taken down. And my buddy with, like those guys outside of Home Depot, we'd go into the buildings and we would pull
strip the copper out or whatever.
All the copper, all the light fixtures, all the fuse boxes, and we'd have a U-Haul truck filled with that. I'd drive it to Vegas, and somebody would give us a ton of cash for all that stuff. So I was like a trash guy.
That's unbelievable.
So
you were making real money before you hit into show business.
During show business, I was making more money. But I still today, I think I make more money outside of show business than I do really well in show business.
You do really well.
But I make more money outside of show business than show business.
Wow.
Because I just like to reinvest.
But was it out of fear? Like I have a fear of I never want to go back. Right. So
always. I'm terrified right now.
Like I know what it's like. I didn't grow up poor, but we weren't wealthy. My parents were school teachers, right? So but I know what it's like to have to wait till payday and living paycheck to paycheck. And I don't ever want to go back. So I operate out of a which isn't probably healthy, but I operate out of a place of fear and healthy paranoia.
I do.
Yeah.
I even say to my kids now, who are, how do you come out of school and afford a home?
Right.
How do you come out? So you want to create, and I'm sure you're doing it with your son, generational practices.
Yes.
It's not about the money. It's how do we survive? Because we do live we are driven by economy.
Yes.
We really are. Even in show business. Show business, show is such is 1/3 of the title.
Yeah.
It's show business. There's business is so much bigger. And you got to realize if they're not making money, then you're not going to get the job.
That's right.
So, it's
all about the bottom line.
It really is.
I got great advice. So right after I won The Apprentice, I went and did The Tonight Show. And Jay Leno came in and he sat me down and he said, don't let Hollywood use you. You use Hollywood.
Smart.
And he said, and I'll never forget that. And and that was great advice because, at that point in time in my life, a lot of people were trying to,
And also when you have notoriety or even an influx of money, regardless of where it is.
Right.
You have to be cognizant. You have to come outside of it and be self-aware of what those dollars are, what you are, what the reason is, and what the result. I'm saying, this is a dichotomy from what I started with. We're saying, deal with the now.
Yep.
Don't think. But the truth of the matter is, you watch athletes who are making millions and millions of dollars
heartbreaking.
Who finish their career in their early 30s and they're broke.
80% of NFL players within 3 years of leaving the league, broke.
And conceptually, if you were able to bank, $100,000, you should be set for life. You should figure out, there is a way with common fourth grade math that you could be set for life. You could put that someplace and build something with that.
It's a different mindset. And I think, it's in Hollywood too, right? They think it's going to last forever.
Right.
And there's an expiration date on everyone. You're defying that, but you're you're in rare air.
But the point is, if you take it back to what I started with, where every dollar is an employee.
That's right.
Do you want to give away all your employees?
Right.
If you have 1 million employees or 100,000 employees, do you want to give them to somebody so you have something that smells nice or looks nice or is all fuzzy? Or do you want to take those 100,000 employees and put them to work so you can make another 100,000 employees? So if you have that money in the bank, you could go into the inner city and buy a fourplex,
Right.
rent it out, live in one because you're not working anymore until that builds up. It's always going to accrue more value.
It's better to be rich than look rich. And that's true, and a lot of these
That's not
guys.
what any Instagram model will tell you.
That's right. Exactly. Exactly.
They would rather,
Yeah.
if you said, would you rather look rich or be rich?
Yeah.
They would say it's better to, it's like Billy Crystal, you
Yes,
look
I
good.
look fabulous.
Yes.
Marvelous, baby.
I don't feel good, I look good.
So start out in Toronto, hustling.
Mhm.
You still have that hustle. I mean, which is incredible.
That's the other thing.
It never went away, even though you're never going to spend your money.
It's not money. Here's
Points.
the other thing. Well, I like points
Yeah.
because life is a game,
Right.
but I also am, and I think this is the fuel to youth productivity and making it, is curiosity. And as long as I am curious, most people, even your age, well, I'm talking to you like you're a kid, but I was, I was already a lot old. I was driving and an adult and involved when you were even born. So, but what I'm saying is most people your age, when we're kids,
Yep.
we want to know, we did want to know what's on the radio. What's the hottest song? I want to go buy that.
Yeah.
What is everybody wearing? What are the sneakers people are wearing? And you look it up and and you're aware, and it's a lot of work. And then what happens is you reach a point in life where you get tired. You know what I mean?
And they're done
These
that.
pants that I'm wearing, they're really comfortable. This is how I'm going to dress. This is the hairstyle that I'm stuck with. This is, I'm just not going to, and that's just emblematic of what's going on inside. It's not about how you dress or your hair or anything, but you don't care. And then you start listening, you'll hear a tidbit of something new and you go, that's not music. What I had was music.
Yeah.
Well, that is music because what you had doesn't speak to anybody of any age that is spending today, the 18 to 39-year-old that is, so, and that's the thing that even in comedy, my son showed me, he turned me on to YouTube and I would see, this gets 100 million clicks.
Incredible.
And I would read all the comments and they'd say, it's funny. This is really funny. And I'd go, well, I don't understand. Like, not only do I not find it funny, I don't understand what they're finding funny. And so I'm on this mission to, how do I engage that 100,000 people? I just spent a week in North Carolina with Mr. Beast.
My son's favorite.
Do you know anything
Of
about
course,
him?
I watch him all
Jimmy?
the time. Yeah,
Well,
Jimmy.
Jimmy he's been on the cover of Time magazine.
That's all my son watches.
Well, he's my
Mr. Beast
new-
and Ryan Trahan.
He's my new, that's the toy, Ryan Tran is unboxing the toys, right?
No, he goes around and does reviews.
Of toys.
Well, of drive-throughs, of
Yeah.
all that. Water parks. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
He's a kid. But Jimmy,
Mr. Beast is almost a billionaire now, I heard.
probably.
Yeah.
He could be.
Yeah.
He's like an Elon Musk of the internet and
Unbelievable.
engaging. I went to his place. He built this. He's got 100 acres or maybe it's 20 acres, $100 million worth of. I'm in his last video.
Wow.
But he invests it back into the business and he's bent on, he lives in this warehouse.
Wow.
And every wall is a whiteboard where he's locking his new passion.
Savant. He's a savant.
Is he, or is Elon Musk and Steve Jobs? He's kind of the same thing.
Mhm.
He just started this new chocolate brand called Feastables.
Yep. Selling out everywhere.
But if you
Selling
go,
out of
I
Walmart.
know. But here's the thing: all over the world.
Yeah.
But I looked on. I go, what are those? I did on my podcast. I did a walkthrough of his place, and he had all these numbers on the wall. Every wall in this place is a whiteboard. So if anybody has an idea, they just write it down on the walls. But he had the weekly and monthly sales of Hershey's and Mars. I don't know how he gets all these inside. And all he does is he does this math and tries to beat him. Like when I was there in that month, it's probably Mars, M&M's, peanut M&M's had sold 267 million up until that point in that year or that month when I was there. And he's trying to beat it. And then he puts Feastables. So he's incredibly competitive, but he wants to, whatever he grabs onto, it's a game.
Wow.
Everything's a game.
Yeah.
How can I engage you? How can I make you watch? How can I retain that audience? And he has, when I was there, he was over 250 million subscribers. he's at 300 million looks or watches worldwide on every release he has. He puts, he doesn't, I don't know that he thinks in terms of money as much as
Yeah, I don't think he cares about money.
he cares about clicks.
Yeah.
So there's just things happening all the time. But what I loved is his freedom.
Uh-huh.
And that's what we all need.
Yeah.
Freedom he's not breaking rules, he's making rules. You know, he lives, and that's what we have to do. We have to get out of this thought process in business and in life and in who we are, where we are, and what we do about how it's supposed to be done. Because we are these beautiful animals that if we did it with the freedom that we have, that's what makes it special. We have to be Columbus. We have to get on that boat and sail to the edge, even though that sounds so stupid.
It's so true, though.
But that's why we're here today, because he did.
Yep.
And everything we do has to be done like that. And if you do it like that, and take care of your mental health.
Yeah.
This will be the most productive, wonderful life each and every one of us could have.
Yeah, I love that. And I love your saying, and I'm going to borrow it with your permission.
Yeah, good.
Nothing comes from no.
Use it.
That's the greatest.
It is.
So many people just say no, no, no.
Nothing starts with N-O.
Yeah.
It does, right?
Yeah,
no,
it's
nothing's
so
going to
good.
happen. Wayne Gretzky said you miss every shot you don't take.
Yeah.
You know, it's all the same philosophy.
Yeah.
And if you look at all the people, they just did it. Do it.
Yeah.
Do it. Do it.
A bad decision is better than indecision.
It really is.
Yeah.
Play the game.
That's right.
And bad things are going to happen.
Yeah.
I always use the analogy of boxing.
Yeah.
If you love boxing and you're passionate about boxing, and even if you're the best in the world, you're going to get punched.
Yeah.
You're going to get hurt.
Yeah.
You're going to get cut. You're going to get knocked down.
Back to life.
But if you don't want to get punched and you don't want to get knocked down, and then don't box. And if you don't box, you won't be the champ.
Yeah.
If you want to be the champ, you got to get in the ring.
Yeah. This is so good. Howie, thank you.
Thank you.
Really a pleasure.
I'm such a fan of yours.
Well, and I got to say, you walk it like you talk it, because I came to you, I pitched you this crazy idea about doing a kids' business competition show, and it took about 10 seconds, and you're like, yes.
Always.
And we dug in, and we went and chopped it like you were in it. You were committed. I thought you were going to pass it on to one of your people, and you didn't.
No.
And that says a lot.
I think it was a great idea.
I've always respected you.
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
I think that when we go with even these ideas in life, I think most people, it's really hard to sell people ideas. And the reason it's hard to sell people ideas is because usually the people you're talking to are not the final decision makers. They're afraid to make a decision because if they find a reason to say no to you, everything is copacetic. Their job is safe. They're doing what they were doing yesterday. They're doing it today. They'll be doing it tomorrow.
Yep.
If they say yes to you, then all of a sudden things are shaky because it's possible that we could do it.
Could be a failure.
It could be a failure.
Yeah.
And which they see as on them, and they could lose their job because any idea we have in this business is millions of dollars.
Millions of dollars, right. Amazing.
So I always tell everybody in my company, listen, just find a way. They want to say no.
Yep.
Before you walk in the door, they are just looking and thinking, even though you think they're listening to you, how can I say no to that? How can I say no to that? What could happen to that? What could happen to that? It's a very negative, but that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
How can I worm my way through this no?
Yeah.
I want to make it a yes. And when I used to sell carpet, you ask questions that would never get a no.
Yep.
You want something durable, right?
Oh, yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want something in a bright color, right?
Of course. Yes, I would.
So now if I walk over and I say, this is a bright color and this is durable, how do you say no? It's just, I put you in an uncomfortable position.
You boxed them in.
I boxed them in.
So we always want to leave with 3 nuggets, and correct me if I'm wrong. Always be open to new ideas. Nothing begins with NO.
Yes.
Secondly,
always say yes.
Always say yes. Secondly, stop doing this. Because at the end of the road, there's going to be no one else to blame except yourself.
It's you. That's number 2.
That's number 2.
3 nuggets?
Be agile. Be able to pivot, adjust, react, adapt. That's what you've done your whole career.
Adopt and adapt.
Yes.
Adopt and adapt.
Love it.
New way of doing it. Don't do it the way you did it.
Yeah.
Adopt a new idea and adapt to it.
That's it. And
That's it.
That's the ticket.
I think if you listen to this episode,
It's
life is just going to be so much better.
It's going to be milk and honey.
It will be. I'm lactose intolerant.
Okay, of course.
But I'm sweet.
Oat milk.
Thank you.
Thanks, man. You're awesome. Thank you.